The first thing that we are not is we are not what's called an Episcopal church. Episcopal, it refers again to a system of church government. The Latin word episcopus refers to a bishop. Now, here we have on the screen the largest Episcopal governing church in the world, the Roman Catholic Church, and the Pope, of course. And this is the notion that there is a human leader, a bishop, who, if you will, governs from the top down. Now, this form of government is probably the oldest form of government in the history of the world, and we have churches today, the Roman Catholic Church, obviously, the Eastern Orthodox Church, the Episcopalian Church in our own country, for example, are churches that follow an Episcopal form of church government, not the Presbyterians. There's another form of government that we are not, and that would be defined as congregational. What's a congregational church? Well, if an Episcopal church has one leader who governs from the top down, a congregational church is a church where it's pure democracy. Everybody's involved. Everybody has a say. We make our own rules. Each congregation makes its own rules and polity of government. We might be loosely connected with other churches, but we do things independently and on our own, purely as a congregation. Perhaps you can think of some churches that follow this form of government. Most Baptistic churches, most Pentecostal churches, Assemblies of God, and local community churches, such as, say, a Rolling Hills Church, for example, would be defined as a congregational church. Nothing wrong with this system of government, very reflective of American culture, but not quite Presbyterians. Presbyterians are sort of, as you imagine, in between. We are a connectional church. We are connected church to church across this nation and across the world in a system of supportive connections. You see on the screen before you, probably a familiar sight, the Capitol building of our own United States. Our own federal government, our own model of representative democracy in the United States is in fact based on the kind of church government that was pioneered and put together originally by the Presbyterians in their own history. So, what do we mean again when we're talking about Presbyterians in this connectional system? Well, let's look at the organizational chart for just a minute. If you go to the very highest level of the church, you're talking about our General Assembly. This is the national church. Our headquarters for the national church are in Louisville, Kentucky. The General Assembly meets once every other year. And the General Assembly, if you will, is the executive, legislative, and judicial branch of the government all rolled into one. And it is made up of representatives of the whole church around the United States, equally represented by ministers of word and sacrament, that is pastors, and by ruling elders who come together, elected to come and govern the church. Underneath the General Assembly, you have a number of regional gatherings called synods. In this part of the world, we're part of the Synod of the Pacific, and that stretches from Oregon and Washington, and Oregon and California, Hawaii and Idaho, large bodies representative of churches working together. Beneath that, you find a number of presbyteries. These are more local, regional gatherings of Presbyterian churches. Lake Grove Presbyterian Church is part of the Presbytery of Cascades. It's a very large geographical body. It stretches from Vancouver, Washington in the north to Tule Lake, California in the south, from the coast all the way over to Bend. It's larger than most presbyteries and has a number of churches that meet within it. And then finally there are the local churches, such as Lake Grove Presbyterian and other regional churches that are part of our presbytery, each one governed by a particular session. When you think of the Presbyterian Church overall in the United States, we have over 11,000 total churches. That sounds like a lot, but we're not one of the biggest denominations by a long sight. And we have over 2.5 million members in the Presbyterian Church nationally. So I hope that's helpful a little bit about understanding who we are. We are connectional. We work together. Instead of having a bishop that governs from the top down, we have a collective body, the General Assembly, and it can make rules that affect how we live our life. But the General Assembly itself is made up of those who are elected to that particular position and to that office, and therefore accountable to us in the local church. We listen to the congregation. The congregation is very important, but the congregation doesn't decide on its own rules. The congregation elects representatives, men and women known as elders, to form the local governing body of the church. So once again, not a pure democracy, a representative democracy, a connectional church.